Well, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy Mother's Day to you, and happy Mother's Day to you, Mom.
Thank you.
I am so blessed to be able to have a chance to sit down with my mom, Penny, for today as we look at part 2 of our series called Fishers. Last week, we were down by the pond and we took a look back at the Gospels of when Jesus began his first early ministry and called his disciples. And we looked at how he called them from the shallows to go deeper, to be more than fans and to be true followers of him. And so we wanted to follow that up this week by just looking at some practical ways of how that looks in our world. And so we're going to share some stories and some things we've learned on what discipling like Jesus looks like and what it means to be fishers of men. And so we thank you for joining us. If you missed part 1, we encourage you sometime to go and check that out. But for this morning, go ahead and settle in and freshen up your mom's coffee, make her a tea. Is there anything you need, Mom?
Maybe some chocolate.
Chocolate? Well, here you go.
Oh.
Happy Mother's Day and enjoy.
Well, happy Mother's Day weekend, Providence Church. We're so thankful for all you moms that are loving, serving, caring, cooking, making sure everything happens around your house. And we're so thankful for you this weekend. Pray God's blessing on you and thankful for all of the body. I mean, we're so grateful for your support, your prayers. We're getting notes of encouragement every week. We know these worship kits are hopefully ministering to you and your family in ways that are building you up in your faith, your walk in Christ right now. And thanks also for being generous. We know every week we're just blessed by the gifts that come in online, being mailed in. So we're grateful and just want to let you know that this weekend. Also, in terms of our church family, we're looking to serve God together. It's Serve Now time. And so we have some opportunities for you to serve the Lord and to serve our community this week. And one of those is through a diaper drive. Cornerstone Pregnancy Resources and Gap is doing a diaper drive, and so we're going to ask you to bring diapers to the office here at Eastside, our office building. You can come Monday through Thursday, anywhere from 8 to 4. We're in the office, and there'll be room in room 100, the conference room across the hall from Jolene. You can drop your diapers in there, especially sizes 5 and 6, and they also need wipes. So if you can bring any size diapers, but 5 and 6 would be great, and drop those off. That would be awesome. You can do that starting this week. We'll be glad to receive those. Also, there's a blood drive happening at the Providence Township Building this week, and Tuesday, May 12th. What you have to do, there's information on the screen here on the kit. You can just call the number and set up an appointment and give blood. There's this extra need right now for people to donate blood. So if you can do that, God can use you that way to help save a life. That would be awesome. And then we're also trying to get together a small work crew to do some outdoor cleanup and mulching at North Star Initiative. That's the folks that fight human trafficking. They're based up by the Lancaster Airport there near Lidditz, and they're asking for a small crew to come in and do some cleanup, outdoor work, some mulch. So if you would like to do that, you do need your childhood clearances, your child clearances, safety clearances, PA clearances. So if you have those and want to be a part of the team, let us know. Send us an email at the office or give us a call, and we'll try to get you on that crew as we plan that time. And speaking of serving our community and blessing them, we have an opportunity this week also. Conlon and Melissa Swope have an opportunity that you'll want to catch, so check it out.
Good morning, Providence Church.
Hey everyone, Swope family here. Excited to partner with you in a Serve Now project and unveil some new details to what we're calling the Building Hope Project. So, what does this entail? Well, you can stay at home to do this. Most of you are getting pretty good with that right now. So what we want you to do is find some cardboard, scrap paper, construction paper, pallets, sidewalk chalk, and start creating messages of hope and joy that we can display this week in our neighborhoods and from our own homes. What we like for each of you to work as a family to do that. We're excited to be able to bless those that might be passing by or need that word of encouragement during the day to shed some light and hope in their life. So we got a couple of the signs that our family has been working on here recently this week. And so we're excited to build upon this and for you to join us in this opportunity.
So what we would like you to do starting today is just work together as a family, kids. This is a lot of fun. You guys can create signs and decorate them. They can go in your yard. You can use sidewalk chalk if it's nice outside on the driveway. You guys can also do this at the church along the side of the road, on the driveway there, to encourage people in the southern end, in Lampeter, in Penn Manor, wherever you are, just to encourage all of those around us over the next week. And then once you've done that, we just ask that you would maybe take a picture or a little video and send to the church office so that we can compile just a little message of hope and just see what all of you have been up to over the next week.
So we're excited about this opportunity. We're reminded of the message and mission of Providence Church, of building bridges, and we're excited to be able to build some hope in hearts that might be desperate and in need of this. And so Crosby wanted to share just a verse to share some hope this week. So Crosby, go ahead.
John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life.
Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, Prov Church family. This is Christina here. So excited to join you this weekend for our Mother's Day weekend service. And as you can see, I'm particularly excited about this weekend being my first Mother's Day. This is Addison Nicole. She joined our family on March 24th, and we're so grateful for the blessing that she is and for the love and support that you've all shown our family in the last couple of weeks. So just want to take this opportunity to say thank you. In addition to that, I want to share with you some special things happening with our Mother's Day service this weekend. First of all, we usually give some type of donation or gift to a local ministry in honor of mothers. And this year, that is $500 that's going to New Hope. They do a lot of local ministry, and we're grateful for the opportunity to bless them in this way. Also, we're encouraging you as families to get involved in a special Mother's Day challenge where we want you to make memories with your mom this weekend. So if you click on the link below, it's going to take you to a page where you can learn more about this Mother's Day challenge and see how you can get a special gift sent to your mom and enter your family in to win a family fun gift basket. We are so excited for this opportunity to get your families together and do something fun, and I'm not sure Addie and Ben will do too much for me in way of making memories, but having her around is memories enough. So we encourage you as a family to get involved and to check out that challenge below. Now, before we get to our message with Dustin and his mom, we want you to take a look at this video and see how one of our Prov Church family moms is surviving this quarantine in a really unique and fun way.
Good morning, kindergarten. How's everybody doing? Good, yeah, good. Good to see you all. Today we're going to do a writing lesson, and we're going to practice this. Is that backwards to you guys? All right, well, we'll get creative here. We're going to edit this sentence, and then we're going to read it together, and we've got a helper. All right, so today's lesson is we're going to edit this sentence, and then we are, what? Oh, I do see your dog. Oh, and your cat. Oh, very nice. Yeah, okay, so we're going to look at this sentence backwards. We're going to try it. So I'm going to read it to you, and we're going to fix some of the mistakes, and then we're going to talk about how to do this. Okay, so let's look at the first word, how. Yeah, it's backwards, I know. All right, so capital H, you're right, so we're going to fix that. So how, capital H, to. Right, we don't use the number, we write the word. How do you spell? How, oh, not all at once, maybe. Okay, raise your hand. Okay, Sarah, T-O, you're right, T-O. Cross this off and write T-O. All right. Good. So you got all the mistakes in there real quick because, it's backwards. So I'm going to read this to you. All right. So let me just grab some. Okay. I think we're ready. Oh, one more second. All right. Here we go. Ready? Okay. I'm going to just bring this closer. And I realize we can't really. Can you guys? All right, we're going to read this together. Ready? How to survive quarantine with kids while virtually teaching kindergarten. That is today's lesson, guys. Yep, that's what I'm going to teach you. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the classroom. After you saw the picture of what we were just doing, that's the first clue of how to survive quarantine. So, what were we playing? You're right, Candyland. So that is our first clue. I'm gonna write it down for you. All right, so the next clue, in the picture you just saw, where were we? Outside, right. So outside starts with an O. So I'm gonna write O in purple. Notice the first letter is in different color, and I'll show you why in a little bit. So next up is O. Remember, we are answering the question, how to survive quarantine with kids while virtually teaching kindergarten. So that's you guys, and you're helping me figure this out. So next up, letter O. All right, you guys saw that we were playing football. Football starts with the letter F, right? So football's next on our list of activities we've been doing to survive quarantine.
Ringing in my ear, and if I heard you, which I don't, and spoken for, I fear. Everyone I've ever loved is here within these walls. I'm sorry, secret siren, but I'm blocking out your...
All right, I know you all know that one you just saw. What was that? Of course, Frozen. I mean, it could be a Frozen movie, Frozen dance party, Frozen whatever you want to do. Everything Frozen. But Frozen is getting us through quarantine, one day at a time. All right, next up, you saw that we were exercising. We've been having to keep up with exercise with all these extra treats we've been eating. All right, can you guys tell I'm starting to build a word? Well, the last letter is E. I'm gonna add another E, and it's for education. We've been trying to keep up with learning some letters and numbers here. See if you can figure out what the magic word is that's getting our family through this quarantine.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me, Mom. I appreciate it. Always love spending time with you. It's been a little bit since we've been able to get up here, but always enjoy our trips to the Berg to hang out with my parents. I just told Kelsey last time we were up that every time I come to this house, it just makes me want to be a better person. And I don't know exactly, can't pinpoint what it is other than just the idea that in the environment that you guys have created in my life growing up and to now is just something that fosters that growth in my faith. So thank you so much for being parents that have done that for me and continue to do so and pour into my life. So we're talking about discipleship. And you actually shared that, unrelated, you have been studying a Bible study called Discipling Like Jesus.
I have.
As I've been studying on this and teaching, so it's pretty cool. We can sync up here and talk a little bit. So I wanted to ask you first off, when it comes to discipleship, when you hear that word disciple, what comes to your mind, or what picture do you see?
Well, there's a lot of things that I thought I was, that I believed discipleship was, but as I get older and more experience with life experiences, it's kind of changed. But I think basically disciple means to partner up with somebody and just to walk through life with them. And as Dustin said, I was studying a book right now on how to be a disciple like Jesus was. And so I've learned that it can be intentional or it can be unintentional. But I think we really all have an opportunity somewhere along the line to partner up with somebody and reach out to somebody and just do life with them. And as you do life, teach them what you have learned through your experiences.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know the word disciple or even discipleship can be sort of a buzzword in the church or a go-to and something we talk about a lot. We don't always look at what it really means or some of the deeper layers. And sometimes we just label anything we do discipleship because it sounds good or it fits. But I think we've both been learning that Jesus' call to discipleship is something more than just a casual understanding or knowledge, but a lifestyle and a commitment. And so that's what we wanted to share a little bit today. I heard, I've studied some things on discipleship in the past, and one of the pictures that I really connected with was this idea of three ships, the three ships of discipleship, and they are fellowship, mentorship, and leadership. And each one of these combining to just illustrate this, how Jesus worked with his disciples, how he brought them in and taught them and then sent them. All in this intentional design of he had a goal in the end, and it was never to just be a good fisher of men, but to be a fisher of men who makes fishers of men in this cycle. And so we're just going to share some stories. So I know you've had some stories, and we were talking a little bit about in your life of people who have discipled you. And so I was wondering if you would go ahead and share one story of some people who invested in your life at a young age.
Okay, I'd love to. Well, when I was younger and in high school, my story kind of resembles probably maybe some of yours, that I wasn't really walking close to the Lord. Don't listen to that, Dustin. But I kind of had a foul mouth and a bad attitude. But there was this one lady who saw something in me, and she befriended me, and that was Lavona Powell, Pastor Bill Powell's wife, who was the pastor at Central Manor Church of God at that time. And so she started asking me to go swimming with her at the Y. And then it ended up we started going to play tennis together. And that led to her asking me to be the catcher on the softball team, the church softball team. And so I did all these things with her. And then she would even take me to Denny's, and we would learn how to experience a cup of coffee. Or actually, it was hot chocolate at that time. But she did all these things with me, and I had no clue that she was discipling me. She just saw something in me that she wanted to nurture. And she did. To this day, I just really value all that she did in my life. And I had no clue that I shouldn't call the pastor at 8:00 at night and ask him if I could come over. But they just opened their home to me and opened their lives to me. And it was just a real simple thing, but it meant a lot to me.
I love hearing those stories about you as a kid. And especially, when you were sharing with me the idea that you didn't know why it was you. Like they just, chose you and invested in you. And I just think that's so cool to see who you are and how you have done that for others and for me. And a lot of that traces back to the investments in your life. That first ship of discipleship is this fellowship aspect. And I know when we often think of fellowship, we think of, the coffee ministry or the potlucks after church. And, fellowship has this element of a lot of time there's food and drink involved, and there's Denny's and hot chocolate and things like that. But fellowship is really an intentional partnering or inviting or spending time with someone. And I know in youth ministry we talk a lot about how kids are much more likely to believe if they first feel like they belong. And I think we see that with Jesus and his disciples. These fishermen didn't really feel like they belonged in the temples and the synagogues where the religious stuff was happening. They were, hey, we're just fishermen. We're down by the sea. That's where we are. And Jesus went to them where they were out of his way and invited them into a relationship, a fellowship, and spending time with them. And that's so cool to see. I know for me, there was a moment in my life that changed my life forever. And it was pretty simple of a guy inviting me to go to the movies. I was in college at Lancaster Bible College, my first year there, and I was a commuter, so I lived off campus at home. I had great landlords, didn't charge too much for rent, and so I drove to school every day. And there's something about, when you're a commuter, you're kind of an outsider. You come in and you go to your classes, and maybe sometimes you eat lunch in your car because you don't know anybody. But one day I was in the computer lab and I was studying for something, one of my classes, and I saw these guys walking by, and one of them, I don't think I had met him before. I was trying to remember. I don't think I had met him before, but he came up to me and he said, "Hey dude, do you want to go to the movies?" And I was like, I'm not really, is he talking to me? Like, I don't really know this guy. And so Ben Martin, who ended up becoming one of my best friends, said, "Hey, do you want to come to the movies with us?" And I went to movies. We went to Kendig at the matinee. So it was like $2 a movie or a ticket. And we had the whole theater to ourselves. And immediately, I didn't feel like a project. I didn't feel like a charity case. Like, I felt like I was just one of them. And so they invited me into that just for fun experience, and we ended up developing this relationship. And I do believe that changed my life. That changed my whole college experience, because at that moment I felt like, okay, I do belong here. Like, okay, I can say this is my school, even though I don't live on campus and I don't know the dorms and all the people. And so that simple moment of inviting me in just meant so much to me. Yeah. So that's that initial element, that a base layer, that fellowship. But then that second ship of discipleship is mentorship. And this is where it starts to take on some more intentional discipling, if you will, and the teaching and the growing, and taking that relationship that you built, that investment, and then starting to expand on it. And so you've had some people from young age all the way up through that have done that for you. So would you share a little bit, about some of those investments in mentorship?
I think the first person I remember that actually I would call mentorship was my neighbor, Jeanette Funk. She would actually make sure that I got to Sunday school and church by picking me up. She was a neighbor, just lived a couple houses down the road. And I was this little girl, and I don't know what she saw in me, but she decided that she was going to nurture and protect me. And so throughout my young life, and then also through high school, and then even to adult life, before she went home to heaven, she would invest in me and always encourage me and give me opportunities. But it was that fact, I think, that she actually just called me up and took me to Sunday school. so that I could get the training that laid the foundation for the rest of my life. And then there was my Uncle John and Aunt Ruth. I'm not sure you remember them. They were probably out of the picture when Dustin was old enough to know them, but they prayed for me. And I think that's a valuable part of the whole mentoring, is to be willing to pray for somebody intentionally. And so they would come to our house and they would encourage me by cards, visits. On my birthday, they remembered me, but they intentionally prayed for me. So I feel like that was a very valuable part of the mentoring process.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and then Jeanette Funk, your neighbor, that connection ended up becoming family friends. That led to me becoming friends with her grandson Eric, and so we spent a lot of time with them. And
then even after Jeanette passed away, her husband Leroy invested in Gabby and Lindy's life by supporting them as they went to Argentina as missionaries. So it was a lifelong.
That ripple effect that really connected. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I know. For me, when I think of mentorship, I immediately go to family as well. I'm not an easy guy to teach. I have a pride in me and a personality that wants to figure things out on my own. I grew up doing connects and puzzles, and so I enjoy that. And so I like to learn things on my own. And so sometimes it can be hard for me to let somebody teach me. But when I think about, I think so much about our family. I was actually looking through some photo albums recently and came across a few quite embarrassing, but brought back some good memories. And really, on both sides of the family, your side and Dad's side, I think about aunts and uncles and cousins that I laughed with, that sent cards, that when we went to family reunions, we enjoyed going, and I looked up to them. I think of some of my older cousins that I always looked up to them and the way they led, and to look at a family that led by faith and not just prayed before the meal, but we talked, and uncles and aunts that modeled it with their kids, and just look back with such fond memories. And even to now, we've, as life pulls us in little directions, we don't see some of that as much as we used to, but I know that at the time, like you even said, I didn't look at it as, hey, my family's mentoring me. My cousins are modeling these things for me, but when I look back at the things, I believe that our faith is meant to be enjoyed, and the joy of the Lord is laughter and fun. And when I think back, I can think of some aunts and uncles who have done some pretty goofy things, and some cousins who are pretty crazy, and just the fun that we've had, and that has spurred me on to continuing in that faith. And also for me, a couple when I look at the church. At New Providence Church of God, the men of the church set such a good example for me growing up. I think of Ron Bowman and Don Neff and Brian Herr and Jamie Swope, and a few people who have just been there for me. And I'm not sure if we even really had times where we sat down and said, let me teach you something, Dustin, but the way they modeled their faith and set that tone taught me so much. Through life. So I am very appreciative of my family, my upbringing, the church that I got to grow up in, and now have the pleasure of continuing on in and doing ministry, and that's pretty cool for me to see.
And I'm very thankful for New Providence for all that they invested in our children. As when we were there pastoring, they were always very supportive and encouraging, and never, I don't ever remember being judged. But always encouraging. So thank you, New Providence, for that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That mentoring aspect of discipleship is what we see a lot in Jesus' ministry. When he, after he called them and invited them in, he they just spent time together and they went together. He stopped and taught them, and they could say, teacher, like, how do we pray? You keep talking about this and hey, what does this mean? Or hey, did you see that guy over there? Like, what was going on? And he had these moments where he was teaching everyone, the casting the wide net, but he was also doing that specific targeted fishing, fishing with his disciples, teaching them and helping them grow. But then it leads to this last ship of discipleship, leadership. And this is the passing on, or the modeling what it looks like to not just be a disciple. I've been thinking about this. Jesus didn't just call us to be disciples. Sometimes we focus on that and how can I be the best Christian, the best follower that I can be? He didn't call us just to that. He called us to be disciples who make disciples. And if we're not doing that, we're missing a huge part of that calling and what he has called us to. And this leadership aspect is really that then the handing off, as John the Baptist did for Jesus, and then Jesus did with his disciples in the Great Commission when he said, hey, remember when I called you? And I said, I'll teach you. And we spent all that time together. Now you go and make disciples. So, share another story here of some people who modeled that well for you in a way that actually encouraged you then to make that part of your life going forward.
Right. Well, back to Lavona. When I became a Christian, finally, in my senior year in high school, it was then that her and Pastor Powell would give me opportunities in the church to learn how to lead, and to, even at that age, they were giving me many opportunities to be part of the ministry, to lead the choir, to write a play, just to see where my giftedness was. And I'm very thankful for their influence, because I feel like that's why I have such a love for the church now. And then there was, do you remember Doug and Linda Salser?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They were our friends when we were at seminary in Texas before we came to New Providence. And it was one of the times when Lawrence had cancer and we didn't know he had it. And so I'm not sure where you kids were, but I was at the hospital or the surgical center, and I was there while he had his operation. And the doctor comes into the waiting room and tells me that, your dad has cancer. And I was all by myself. And it was at that time that I called Linda, who was the secretary at our church. And I just told her, hey, could you put this on the prayer list? And so she did. But then it was like 15 minutes later, she was there in the waiting room with me, her and her husband, and they had food for me because I hadn't eaten. And that formed a friendship that has lasted to this day. So then after that, Linda purposely would share Bible verses with me, and we would study things together. We had opportunities to give to other people. We would make cards and encourage other people. So she taught me how to take scripture and make it part of my life. And even to this day, they're still good friends and they're involved in the ministry, but they invested in the children too. They would go to the grandparent day things because we didn't have any parents nearby. So they invested in our children's lives too. And so I really feel like that helped me to gain an understanding of what mentorship and the discipling process is. And it wasn't until though after I left there that I realized Linda picked up somebody else and she was walking alongside somebody else and helping them. And she's done that over and over. And so I feel like that's where I get a love for doing that.
Well, yeah, that is awesome to see that, and especially in a time that is so meaningful and scary, in your life, to have that person who showed up there and then to continue that on. And you've been able to, model that and have some of those types of relationships and do some of those things through the years as well. So that's awesome to see. Yeah. This leadership aspect is, I often think of the handing over the keys. Do you remember when we started driving? Do you remember?
Boy, do I
when I can remember literally the time going to get my driver's license, and we passed, and I think it was with Dad, and we're coming home, and he pulled over and he said, "It's all right, it's your turn. And I remember in that moment, all this time I can't wait to drive. I want to drive. And now we're on the road. And I'm like, I don't want to drive. I can't do this. I'm not ready. I need to go practice in the parking lot. But instilling that confidence to take the keys and it's your turn, and and you go, whether that's intentional or even unintentional of just seeing it rather than being told it. And I know for me, I look at the relationship I had with you and Dad as that type of leadership role in my life, where Dad wasn't necessarily always saying, okay, now here's what you do to cut this wood or drill or things like that. But I was in the shop with him when he was working on things and showed things, and I could ask things. And there was times then when, hey, Dustin, can you do this for me, or can you go do this? And that handing that off of is pretty amazing. And for you, I was looking through this photo album, and I figured something out. I don't think I'd ever seen these pictures before, but there was this young lady in a Penn Manor cheerleading outfit, and I realized, you have been my biggest cheerleader my whole life. On the sports field, saying, "Hey, go Doodles!" I know that's my mom. Cheering me on to. Sitting on the couch and watching the Dallas Mavericks win the win the NBA championship, and you learning their names and Dirk and all those, investing in me to celebrating my life, and in that way, letting me kind of take over in my interest, but you supporting me in that. And, it wasn't this intentional discipleship maybe, but it was there. And it's often you see it afterwards, right? I think about the disciples oftentimes, did they know what was really going on when they were hanging out with Jesus? Until the end when he said, okay, it's your turn. I'm going to leave. And, whoa, wait a minute. Wait, what's going to happen? And, he's like, hey, I told you this was coming. But then in that moment, the realization, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. I have what I need. I've seen it modeled. And, that's really what we wanted to share today and talk about, because we can talk about discipleship and, within the church context and the ministry, we're often trying to cast a wide net and create opportunities for that to happen. But the church isn't able to get in lives of your neighbors and the kids in your communities and your families. That's where we're called to be fishers and disciples, and starting right where we're at. Who's right in front of us? Who's that annoying little kid next door that you might just want to oh my goodness, is anybody watching them? And maybe that's a call, an opportunity for you to say, hey, I can invest in this life. And so thanks so much for sitting down with me and talking through this. And it's been fun to hear what you're learning and hear some stories about you as a kid and people who invested in you, and just get to reflect on that. So I really enjoyed that.
It certainly is a mother's pleasure to be able to sit with her son and talk about spiritual things as well as the crazy things as well. But it's an honor to sit here. And I know that God has calling on your life, and it's evident when I see what he's doing through Dustin at the church with the young people.
Thanks so much, Mom. I had some great mentors. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with us. We really appreciate the time. We pray a special blessing every Mother's today, and it's a day we can celebrate with you. But for all of you, as we see God's call for us, especially in this time and even beyond, of answering that call, who has God put in our lives? What are the ponds that we need to be fishing in? And where is God leading us? He's calling all of us to it. And are we able to see those opportunities, take advantage of those opportunities? And sometimes it just takes that invitation to fellowship. It takes some time spent teaching or just getting them to Sunday school, getting them in areas where they can learn, and being willing to hand over the keys and give those opportunities to grow. So thanks again for the time. Thank you all for tuning in. We pray that you have a blessed day, and thank you so much. Bye. So we wanted to just finish up today by sharing some helpful resources for discipleship, mentorship that we have had. So do you want to share this book that you've been using?
Okay, so I had a young lady in our church come up to me and ask me right before she was getting married if I would mentor her. And so I did some researching and I found this wonderful resource. It's called Flourish, and it's put out by Lifeway. And it is a journal that I have a mentor journal, and then there's a mentee journal for the people who are doing it with me. And it covers a really wide range of topics. One on God's word, your prayer life, your identity in Christ, your calling, your kinship, and your gratitude. So it's a whole year that you would invest in someone's life. But it gives you guidelines on how to mentor. And I think one of the biggest things that people are afraid of is that they're afraid of answering all the questions. But it's mainly, it tells you that it's listening. It's listening to the other person and their responses and drawing out from them what God's doing in their life. So you don't feel like you have to have this wealth of knowledge. But if you have a resource like this, it guides you along the way, and then you're just sharing life with each other. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great resource. At Providence, we have been doing the one-to-one discipleship. We've been pairing up mentors and mentees and going through this program. And so if you are interested in anything like that, at Providence, you can contact the church office. We can get you set up with an area. One thing I've always wrestled with is do I wait for someone to come ask me to mentor me, or should I go and ask someone? And I think it works both ways. Where if you feel like you've been blessed and you've been led and want to do that for someone else, finding someone and a resource like one-to-one or something like this and reaching out, or if you feel like I really want to be mentored, led, sometimes it just takes asking, finding someone who you respect, you look up to, and connecting with them. But we can also help you with that, and so if you're looking, if you have some questions, feel free to contact the church office and we can help you get started there. But we also wanted to show you today in the discussion guide, the attached link, we're going to include some more tips and resources, some things on discipling your family, discipleship and mentoring in a spouse relationship or in your community, in the church with younger and all kinds of different things to help you. So we encourage you to check that out as well. And so thanks again for tuning in and have a great day. Love you, Mama.
love you, Dustin.
That was special for me.